Instagram stories for Thursday, May 9th. I'm your host, Daniel Hill. There's a lot of news to get into. Let's jump right in. The biggest news of the day has to do with Meta Verified. If you're not familiar, Meta Verified is a subscription that you can pay for on Instagram and Facebook that is an option for creators and businesses. It shows that your profile is authentic and gives you some other features that you would not have access to otherwise. But you do have to pay for a monthly subscription. Good news, Meta has expanded the amount of monthly subscriptions that they offer. Before I dive into how Meta has expanded this verification, I want to explain that the Meta Verified for Creators continues to be $14.99 a month. That has not changed. You get the verification badge, impersonation, protection, support, and so forth. Okay, let's dive into what's changed for Meta Verified business users. You continue to have the business standard option for $14.99 a month, but now there's a business plus, which is $44.99 a month and includes search optimization, meaning that your account will appear at or near the top of search results. It will be a featured account, which is giving you the opportunity to be featured in feed and give you a chance to introduce your business to new audiences. Plus, you will get links in Reels, and you can have 2 links in Reels per month. Let's go on to the next one, which is Business Premium, $119 a month. It includes all the things that I mentioned earlier, search optimization, featured account. You would this time get 4 links in Reels per month that you can use, plus employee impersonation protection for 2 employees and customized messaging chats, where you could customize your Facebook Messenger and Instagram direct chats with different theme colors. The last option is Business Max, which costs a whopping $349 per month. It includes all the things that I mentioned previously, but gives you the addition of 6 links in Reels per month and an account review. Meta explains that you get semi-annual access to an advisor who will provide guidance to improve your content strategy for your subscribed account. Okay, let's put this news in context. Instagram has recently come out to say that they are going to be working harder to highlight small creators so that they can get noticed and get more reach for their content. However, if you are a business and you want increased reach, it's clear that you have to pay in order to play. This featured account, where you have the opportunity to be featured in feed and introduce your business to new audiences, this is something that you have to pay a minimum of $44.99 a month for. Now, in context, I recognize that if you have costs of doing business, this is not a huge cost compared to some other things that you might have to pay for. But still, you're paying this amount. And if you're not in the EU, you're seeing ads on top of paying this amount of money per month. I will link to more details in the show notes. Definitely check it out, especially if you are a business account. Okay, let's do a couple of quick hits of Threads news. Meta has confirmed it's testing a new option that will enable Instagram users to cross-post updates to Threads. In the screenshot that I'm looking at, you have the option to share to Threads, just like you can share to Facebook. But apparently this would just be for regular posts. There's no indication that this test would apply to Reels, although I would certainly expect that to come in the future. And lastly, today, Threads announced that the company is making it easier for anyone to see how many views a specific thread post got. Adam Mosseri said, quote, "It's important that people understand how their Threads posts perform, so we're rolling out the ability to tap anywhere on a post to display its total view count. We've got more work to do, but I think this is a great first step in giving creators some of the data they've been asking for." We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, Lia Haberman from the In Case You Missed It social media newsletter is going to stop by, so stick around. And we're back. Lia Haberman is a social media advisor and educator. She consults for brands like Google, Robert Half, and AT&T. She runs social workshops for groups like Macy's Style Crew and the Costume Designers Guild. She teaches social media marketing and influencer marketing at UCLA Extension. She's been featured on NPR's Planet Money and quoted in outlets like The Washington Post, Business Insider, and Ad Age. She writes a newsletter for 25,000 marketers and creators called In Case You Missed It, which I reference all the time. It's full of excellent social media information. I sat down with Lia, interviewed her, and here it is. Today on the show, we have Lia Haberman. Lia, welcome.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Lia, for people who are not familiar with you, can you please tell us who you are and what it is that you do?
Yes. So briefly, I write a newsletter called In Case You Missed It, or ICYMI, that recaps social and influencer marketing headlines every Friday and adds a little bit of my perspective as both having been on the media and the marketing side for all of my career, mostly working in-house at brands, but I've also worked for creators and helping them run marketing for their businesses. So I'm a little bit all over the place. I think like both sides of the fence, from editorial, organic social to marketing, done a little bit of paid event production. So yeah, but I put out this newsletter. I teach at UCLA and I consult with a bunch of brands.
I love that all. I'm very familiar with you because I've been reading your newsletter for some time. I think you've really broken quite a few things over the past, I'll say, year or so into the media in terms of either getting the scoop or uncovering it first, what have you. Can you talk a little bit about that? And I'm sorry for not remembering exactly what it is that you broke, but I remember them being big scoops at the time.
Sure. Yeah. So scoops are hard to come by. I
Oh,
think the best scoop that I had was when a creator who got a kind of a pitch from Meta about threads shared that pitch with me. It was top secret. Nobody had seen it yet. There were rumblings of a new app coming out from Meta, but nobody had seen it. So I got the first screenshot of what that was going to look like and kind of the official pitch that Meta went out to big publishers, creators that they wanted to make sure were onboarded on threads right from the get-go. So that was probably the biggest scoop that I ever got. And I think having it come from a creator was even more valuable. I think it wasn't packaged in Meta pitching it like their comms team or PR or whatever. So it was very much from the creator's perspective of like, hey, look, I got this news from Meta and here's a screenshot. And yeah, so it was really interesting. I think I gained like 1,000 followers overnight on that, did interviews, network TV, and all kinds of different outlets. So that one was super exciting. A lot of the other scoops I get are things that maybe the platform will let me know at this point. All of the platforms will occasionally let me know like a week in advance, hey, heads up, this is coming out next week. You can't talk about it until whatever
right.
day at whatever time, but just giving notice that this is kind of coming down the pipeline. Those are cool because I appreciate those as well. But it is, you've got to turn it around really fast. Sometimes they give you like a couple of minutes notice. Sometimes they give you a day's notice. Sometimes they give you a week's notice. Those are really great because I can pre-write the newsletter. But I think the first time one of the platforms gave me advance notice, I was so nervous about sending it out before. They give you an embargoed time. So like you cannot release this news until 6 a.m., 7 a.m., whatever it is. And I was so nervous that I couldn't schedule the newsletter because I thought, what if it goes out early and this platform is pissed at me and I never get an exclusive again. So I got up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, had everything ready to go and just waited to like push that button to send. But it all worked out and like there haven't been any disasters yet.
I would have done the same thing, to be honest with you, because I guarantee that if I had scheduled the post, I would have had my account set to the wrong time zone. I would have been in London time instead of New York. And I know I would have messed it up personally. So I respect the waking up early to make sure it was done at the right time.
Yeah. And I'm in LA. So I always have to go back and forth. Like you said, East Coast, West Coast, Greenwich Mean Time, whatever it is. You're double, triple checking that, okay, if I'm on Pacific time, like what time is that supposed to go out? And it's always early here, obviously, because West Coast. So it always ends up being at something like 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning.
I would love to talk about some of the features that you've talked about in your newsletter. Before we dive into maybe the most recent newsletter or some recent features, are there features that Instagram, TikTok, X, other platforms have released that really you think are meaningful and sort of impact the social media landscape the way we look at it? I know that's kind of a big question. So
Yeah. So okay, let's go platform by platform. TikTok, new features. I think the emphasis on photos is interesting. I think the fact that they're going to be rolling out TikTok Notes, which is going to be a separate photo app, is interesting. Just this week, I got a new tab on my TikTok feed that's called the Explore tab. I did some digging around and it turns out that everything that's on the Explore tab is a photo carousel. So again, this kind of emphasizes TikTok wanting to move beyond just video to also an emphasis on photos. That I think is really interesting, in them trying to reposition themselves as like, it's not just a video app, it's not just a shopping app, it's not just a photo app. It's all things to all. They want to be all things to all people. So I think that's interesting.
Wait, can I just pause you for 1 second? I
Yeah.
agree with you that that is interesting because Instagram has gone so far away from photos in terms of you have to make reels, you have to do video. And for people who just want to be photographers and just share those moments with photos, it feels like you are on the far back burner in Instagram's world. So for TikTok to kind of take that and amplify that, I think is a very interesting play and positioning in comparison to the way Instagram is moving toward video. Sorry, please continue.
Oh no, absolutely. Every time one of them does something, you certainly have to compare and contrast with what the other platform's doing. So let's skip to Instagram and look at how they're going to be changing the recommendation ranking for Reels. That's news that came out earlier this week. So previously, larger creators tended to benefit from the size of their audience for their reels getting visibility, and then those reels making it into the recommendation sections. So that's in feed, reels feed, and the explore page on Instagram. Now Instagram is saying, we are going to allow smaller creators to break through. We are going to surface their content in all of these recommendation areas so they get more of a chance, more exposure to their reels, more of a chance to grow. And they also talked about how they're going to try and deprioritize aggregators who, not necessarily accounts, like if you think about food accounts, sports accounts, things that are meaningfully transforming content, whether they're doing a green screen or they're talking about somebody else's content, they're attributing the content back to the original creator. So those people aren't going to get hurt, but people that are ripping off other people's reels will be deprioritized. So the interesting thing there is, I think Instagram is looking at, if there is a TikTok ban, if for some reason TikTok disappears, making, or even if it doesn't disappear, I think they're trying to make Instagram more welcoming to somebody that might have been on TikTok and thought, oh, it's going to be really hard for me to grow on Instagram. Platform's so much more established. There's so many bigger creators there that have been there for years. They have these really large established audiences. I think in kind of, I don't know, waving like a white flag and saying, hey, come on over to Instagram. If you're just getting started or a smaller creator, you don't have a huge audience, it's okay. We're going to help your reels surface to more people. I thought that was really interesting. And it's hard to look at it without thinking about TikTok and what that impact might be and how they're going to try and lure over some TikTokers who might previously have thought it is too hard to grow on Instagram. And Instagram is saying, no, it's not. Come on over. Like, this is a good place to be if you're a small creator.
I think I'm so glad you brought that up. I think it's fascinating for a couple of reasons, but I see a lot of people saying reaches down. And every time Adam Mosseri talks and he makes a video, the question is always reaches down. What can I do? And I realized recently there's two things that people are saying when they say reaches down. Either they can't reach their own followers, people who have tried to follow them who aren't seeing their posts, or they want to be amplified in the algorithm and they used to be, or they're not getting as much amplification in the algorithm to non-followers as they want. And I think Adam's videos are often geared toward the first type, but this announcement is geared toward the second type, the people who want to be seen by people who don't follow them. And that's where TikTok shines, right? If you make a video and it does really well and it goes to the For You page and it explodes and your whole life changes or whatever, that's something that Instagram historically has not been as great at, for just surfacing videos that would not be watched otherwise. So I think this announcement, to your point, is 100% in competition with TikTok. If there's a ban, how do we show people Instagram's just as good? And I really like the way you explained that.
Yeah. And I will say Instagram did do that, but 8 years ago. I mean, it was,
right.
There used to be, I think, like in the golden, I would say the golden days of, if you want to be a really big Instagram creator, go back in time, get on the platform from like 2014 to 2017. That was the era when you really could grow. But yeah, to your point, they don't really do it anymore. And just to clarify, I don't even think a ban is necessary. I think it's just, as creators are looking around, as brands are looking around and thinking about, okay, we need to diversify. We can't just be on TikTok. I think, yeah, this is making it very appealing for people to go over to Instagram.
Absolutely. Are there other platforms and features that you've noticed that you think are strategic or have really stood out to you recently?
I like everything YouTube does. I'm not on YouTube, but I'm a huge fan of the platform. I'm a fan of it for brands. I'm a fan of it for creators. I mean, I watch it obviously, but I don't actually publish on YouTube. I have every creator that I've ever advised, I'm telling them to get on YouTube. I just think that YouTube as an ecosystem for creators is just very friendly. You're able to monetize your videos much more easily, not easily, but it's more attainable than the other platforms, or available than the other platforms. I thought it was interesting that they had an emphasis on living room viewing this year. That was part of Neil Mohan's like 2024 priorities, is like talking about, okay, people are watching YouTube not just on their mobile devices, but also on their TVs in the living room. So think about how you're programming for that. They just came out with pause ads or pause screen ads. So if you're watching YouTube, you pause, you don't just see a still of the video, you're going to get pause ads. I think that's fascinating. Trying to find more surfaces. If you're a marketer, advertiser, you're always looking for places for your messaging to show up. So I think pause ads are fascinating. Obviously, shorts. I mean, it feels like shorts has been around forever, but it hasn't. So I would include shorts in that as well. Like, I think they're making all of the right moves. I think sometimes people perceive YouTube as a little more intimidating, especially for creators. Like thinking about long form video, it certainly is different from producing short form video. And I think creators and brands as well, get intimidated by long form video. And I think that is that's a hurdle that people need to get over, or YouTube needs to find a way to convince people that like, it's not that intimidating. It's not that scary. Come on board.
I agree. That's a really good point. You said a lot of things there, and I'm trying to make a mental list. So first, I'm glad you brought up about the living room experience, because that's personally how I watch YouTube. If it's a short video, I'll watch on my phone, but more than 5 minutes, I prefer that kind of lean back experience. And to have it on the big screen is exactly how I think some of these videos, whether it's a late night show host, what do you call it? Late night TV show that you watch a longer clip of on YouTube. But one of the things, and I think you covered this in your newsletter as well, is how much revenue Instagram earns from ads and how much of that ends up in creators' pockets versus how much revenue YouTube gets, and how they do a much better split of that revenue with creators, which I think is, obviously there's barriers to entry and so forth, but I think that speaks to the long-term thought process that the YouTube team is putting into, hey, if we give to the community, they're going to keep making that content. I think that is such a smart play looking at this from a long-term perspective.
I 100% agree. And I can't give you the exact numbers. I know what you're talking about. And it was in my newsletter. Some news came out that Instagram earns more money than YouTube in advertising, but they don't pay the creators it remotely the same way. I think YouTube was smart in, like you said, being very loyal to creators, helping pay creators. They're also thinking about living rooms. So they're thinking about like, how is a more polished, produced product going to show up in the living room experience? That also makes it welcoming for not only creators, but brands like Bravo. I know the late night show, they all have outtakes that they put exclusively on YouTube. So it's like YouTube has been very, very smart about making itself a welcoming place for a lot of different publishers, whether that's creators, whether that's media, whether that's like a traditional network or studio, for example. The music, they've always been very good about the deals that they make with musicians and licensing music and the music that you're allowed to use on YouTube. I think they've been really, really good at appealing to a lot of different content publishers. And so, yeah, I'm team YouTube. I
I
mean, I'm
love
team
that.
all the platforms, but I
Of
think YouTube
course.
has made a lot of smart moves.
Yeah, for the long-term play, I absolutely agree. Let's talk about, if it's okay, your most recent newsletter, which you just sent out a couple of hours before we're recording this episode. I always like to get the Friday digest emails, and it might be a little bit quieter in terms of email, so I can read through a little bit more closely. Instagram announced a lot of new features this past week. Do you mind talking about a little, as many as you're comfortable to talk about briefly without putting you on the spot?
Yeah. So one of the splashier announcement was they partnered with Dua Lipa to release a new story sticker called Add Yours Music. So we've had the
Okay.
Add Yours, and this one specifically, they partnered with Dua Lipa to have her release it because she has a new album coming out. I think
Are
that
you a Dua Lipa fan?
I like her. I'm not like a diehard stan, but I do like her music. But I do think it is smart because artists have so much visibility, and it's really interesting how Instagram has decided to use creators and artists to drop these product announcements, do product marketing, but through their accounts. So it's not just partnering with an influencer or hiring an influencer to amplify your message. It's thinking about, we are going to have this person, this trusted voice, make the announcement for us. And I think that that's something that I've kind of been watching. They did that at Coachella. They
Mm.
released the Frames sticker
Yes.
at
Yes.
Coachella through a Cake Pop band and had them release it first. And then Instagram follows up a couple of hours later with the official announcement. I thought that was smart. I
I'm so
thought,
glad you brought that one up too, because so I was at Coachella, I was there that weekend. I did not realize I tracked this for my podcast, new Instagram. I didn't even know about it. That was such a creative way to release this story sticker. And they tied it in like a Polaroid where you had to shake it and like very creative. I respect the efforts that they're going through, but you and your newsletter outlined sort of the strategy behind that and why this is so important. And I think that is the key component. They're not just doing it just to release new features with these tie-ins and famous people using the feature. And these are the ones. Can you mention about Billie Eilish as well? Because I think that is a fascinating example.
yeah, I mean, I think it adds more credibility and authority when you have these other voices. It's basically passing the mic to somebody that people actually want to hear from versus your corporate announcement. And so Billie Eilish added, oh gosh, I'm forgetting, but it's like, I don't know, she has like 110 million Instagram followers and added them to her close friends list. And that's not the first time that we've seen this. So if anybody has added a bunch of people to their close friends list, that you cannot add 110 million people to your close
Right.
friends list. Like, it's not a manual process. She worked with Instagram around, she was dropping new music. So she worked with Instagram to do that. It's not
But
the first time it's been done. Lil Yachty did it last November, where he added, I think it's like 10 or 11 million of his followers to his close friends list. At the time, I was at Social Media Week, and there was a guy there from Instagram who talked about how nobody realized that when Lil Yachty did that, you kind of had a clue that Instagram helped him do it, but it was actually to promote Instagram's close friends in feed and close friends reels. So they were
yes,
allowing you to use the close friends feature in more ways than just in stories. And they said people don't like ads. And to this day, most people don't realize that when Lil Yachty did that, it was actually an ad to promote the close friends features. And so I think it's brilliant in getting these people to use it in a way that's very authentic and organic to like how they would actually be using Instagram. Like I said, they're trusted voices. You're allowing somebody else to make the announcement for you, and somebody that your audience could potentially be excited about. I think they're hitting like the right target demos in partnering with all of these different artists and creators. To me, that was kind of the most exciting thing that came out of Instagram this week. Not the only thing, but it definitely to me, I thought was, wow, look at what Instagram is doing, and how can we as marketers take a page from that and consider passing the mic to a creator, influencer, artist, and allowing them to make the announcement before we do.
I think that's fascinating. And one of the things I think is interesting is people forget about close friends, that it even exists. I think about how many people have made two separate Instagram accounts and they say, oh, this one's just for my friends and family so I can keep it private. And then I have my public business one or whatever. And that's literally why close friends exists. And so if you didn't use it and all of a sudden you have this green circle around someone that you follow closely, why is the circle green? Oh, this is close friends. Oh, I could make my own close friends. And now you're reminded that this feature even exists in the first place. So I think it's kind of a double-edged sword, but that's a great way to remind people, because there's so many features within Instagram. And sometimes they announce it, it's a big splash, and then no one uses it and it's gone in 6 months or a year. Or sometimes we use it for that first week or two and then it sort of drops off. So I think that was a great way to remind people that they can use close friends in their own life for who they want to be in their inner circle, whether it's your closest family, your closest friends, whatever. I think that's a great reminder.
Yeah. And I will just point out, because I talked to somebody at YouTube, YouTube actually created a close friends account or close friends group on
Oh,
Instagram, and they opened it to creators. It was a VIP club basically, which is kind of the way that I thought Close Friends was going to get used. But YouTube did it on their own. They didn't partner with Instagram. They just decided, okay, we're going to create a little micro community. They manually added people. So just like when you think about, you can't add 10 million people all at once, like YouTube manually did it. It was really interesting because one of their marketing folks like was talking me through the process and why they decided to do it. And then they ended up, once they kind of tested the concept in, hey, let's create this little IP kind of space for specific creators, then they opened it up to anybody that, wanted to join their like creator club. But I thought, oh, it's interesting. Like, yeah, not just artists, but I think other companies, like you said, are seeing the value in Close Friends, creating this community of people who are really invested in being there. And you get that reminder with that little green arrow circle that you're like, oh, I'm part of the club. It ticks so many boxes. So yeah, I think Close Friends is I love stories. I love Close Friends, DMs. I mean, that's where Adam Mosseri has said everybody's spending their time. So the more that you can build that up and create features, the better. Sorry, I know I'm going on, but I'm going to jump to the one other thing that I think was really interesting that Instagram released this week, which I think is going to increase engagement in stories, is they also unveiled a new sticker in stories called Reveal.
Yes, I just used it for the first time. Right before this, I posted a picture I was very proud of, and I didn't want to use it without that reveal sticker. And so people actually explain how it works for people who don't know.
Yeah, so you upload a story or you take a photo to stories and you add this reveal sticker to it. And so it blurs out the image and then people have to DM you to be able to see, to get the reveal, like what that photo is, what that video is. And I think it's genius. It's, as a brand, as a creator, if you want to capture intent and people being really invested in what you're putting out there, having like a new product drop, a new launch, a new event, a new location opening, and having this kind of blurred out image where people have to DM you to see what's behind it, so powerful. And I think it's going to really drive engagement in stories.
Yes. And I think it will be especially interesting for those people who sort of stalk what you're doing without trying to reveal it. And maybe they watch your story, but they don't comment and they just look at your post and they don't like, but now they're forced to send you a DM. You don't have to respond to it for them to see the picture, but at least they are very invested in what you're doing. So I think that's a really interesting way to use that feature too.
Yeah. Yeah. Super excited about that one.
Lia, this has been great having you on. I'm glad we got to dive into some of these features, where the platforms are going. If you don't mind, can you tell us where we can find you online and what we can look forward to you creating in the near future?
Yeah, so I see YMI, in case you missed it, newsletter on Substack. Would love to have people subscribe. And yeah, a couple of different exciting things coming up this summer that I can't talk about yet, but that I am super psyched about. So follow me on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, newsletter. I'll be all over it when it's time.
All those links will be in the show notes, so you can definitely check it out. Lia, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, hey, thanks for listening all the way to the end of this episode. Hopefully you found it valuable. You enjoyed the interview with Lia. Be sure to look into the show notes for this episode to find the links for everything that we talked about throughout this entire episode. As always, please be sure to come back next time for more social media news, strategy, and other things I think you need.
Let me tell you a couple things that you should know about me. A product manager, but do not have a bachelor's degree. But actually, that's factually a fraction of me. And other fractions posting content irregular and irrationally. Still probably won't get a job at the gram. They forgot, they don't know, or don't care who I am. That's why you never see me at the parties and events. My lack of followers must make me irrelevant. Don't have a course, a book to sell to make a bag of grand. Not a social media marketer, don't represent any brands. Plain to see, don't have an agency, but I got a lot of spam. Just putting in my work without the glitz and glam. Won't catch me eating fish unless it's shrimp or clam. No six pack, no risk that, there's a gym card in my hand. Don't have a full-time job, but I got a lot of plans. Stay plotting, dropping knowledge on TikTok and Instagram.